So welcome to Tara Institute. I'm sorry the place is sort of in a bit of disarray, but we have a very big event tomorrow, so people have been working very hard preparing for it. So my name's Damien, and this month I have been, we just started last week, talking a little bit about this text, the Jewel Rosary of the Awakening Warrior. So there's a few copies there. If you'd like one, maybe Amber hand them out if somebody wants one. So you're welcome to take them home. And like I was saying last week, this is a really good text to memorise and to read regularly at the least. And also, it's like I was saying last week, it's called the Jewel Rosary because it is like a string of jewels. Each one stands on its own, and then together it's a collection, like a rosary. It falls into this category of thought transformation, teachings. And just to talk a little bit, we can all naturally recognise within ourselves the wish to be happy and the wish to be free from suffering. And that manifests for us in wanting transformation. So generally, we want better food, we want, better relationships, we want a good job, we want better pay, we want a good environment, we want a good quality house. And so we can easily see that force of transformation, that wish for transformation in our environment, in our circumstances, in our relationships, in our clothing, in our makeup, in our physicality, in our health. We want transformation to something better. And so you could think, well, the Buddha could have taught all of that. He could have taught interior decorating. He could have taught fashion sense. He could have taught makeup. He could have taught endlessly about, Master Chef, sort of thing, that what's good for you internally for your health, and to support our wish for transformation on that material and physical world. So, although some people will point to parts of the Buddha's teachings and say, well, look, there he is, he says this or that, the dimensions of buildings or this, there is some evidence of these material instructions. But in general, the whole thrust of the Buddha's teachings is about thought transformation. And so it's important for us to recognise that even with all of the effort that we put into the transformation of our physical world, our appearance or our housing, our buildings, our work situation, our leisure time, our fitness, health, everything, that there are no guarantees that any of that will actually drive an increase in our happiness. And if we really examine our efforts, we find that instead of happiness, we often have anxiety and unfulfilled expectation and frustration and resentment, some sense of failure, all sorts of mental baggage which interferes with this physical transformation that we may have actually attained. We may have become very wealthy, we may have become, famous, we may be a rock star or whatever, we may be, a politician who's loved by 51% of the population. there's this, but our mental experience is not satisfied. And so the Buddha then, the whole emphasis of the Buddha's teachings is about thought transformation. So transformation for us is, it's a given that we want transformation. And coming here, I came here for transformation. And initially, to be honest, I came here hoping that my external relationships would be transformed by something that I might learn here. So that to recognise that there is a pervasiveness of our wish for transformation, and the material, the external, the relationships, the fame, the possessions dominate our actual wish for transformation. So the secret of this text, to a large degree, and like all thought transformation teachings in the thing, is that the root problem is our thinking. The root problem is our interpretation, our projections, our conceptions, and our mental suffering and mental happiness. That's what we're really looking for, no matter what the circumstances are. So even if we become really wealthy, that wealth should be a cause for our mental happiness, and often it may not be. So, and then in particular, like this tradition, the Tara Institute is sort of the aspiration. The aspiration here is to benefit others. And all human beings have some element of an altruistic thought. We all have some element of an altruistic thought, and it's often expressed in a conditional way, like for my children, or for my partner, or for my parents, or for my best friend. And so we have some altruistic thought of wanting to benefit somebody, but on the basis of some conditionality, some sort of conditionality. My best friend, my wife, my husband, my children, my mother, my father, my neighbour, my employer, my employees, my teammates, my gardener, whatever. We have an element of an altruistic thought, and so that element of altruistic thought that we have is a really special commodity. It's something very precious. And the main sort of aspiration in Buddhism is to take that kernel of altruistic thought and try to make it unconditional. To aspire to make that altruistic thought unconditional, unrestrained, fully developed. So our motivation, even, a motivation for any action, we should try to elevate that motivation to the highest possible motivation that we can generate. And so from the Buddha's point of view, that highest type of motivation is the unconditional, complete altruistic motivation. And so even like tonight, we'll spend a minute or two trying to elevate our motivation. So accepting that we have a natural seed of altruism, or a natural, small amount of an altruistic thought, and then just with a meditation, so visualizing yourself surrounded. So the traditional meditation is to visualize like your mother behind you on the left, your father behind you on the right, all of your sisters, female relatives, all on this left side, all your male relatives and male friends, affiliates, whatever, all on that side. And then in front of you, the people that give you some difficulty. So we're giving special attention to those who we normally exclude from our altruistic thought. So the idea of somebody that we dislike, and let's call them an enemy, is that one of the things is that our attitude towards them is that we have completely excluded them from our altruistic nature. So whatever altruistic nature we have, the one person that we totally exclude from that is the person that we dislike. And so for that reason, we put them in front of us as the focus of our attention. Because we normally actively exclude them from any sort of kind thought, affectionate thought, or consideration or care. In fact, we have the reverse of all of those attitudes. So for this, for tonight's little discussion, we try to elevate our motivation using this visualization, and just spend a minute opening up your natural altruistic feeling, to broaden it and to fully encompass every living being as your motive for meditating tonight and for discussing and for listening tonight. So let's just spend a minute doing that. Okay, so I'm loath to read this. I don't like reading in these classes. I try to really avoid it, but I don't think I've got any option but to read this text. Like I was saying, I think maybe for 30 years I used to recite this every day. So, and then, I'd memorised it a long way into that process, and so I still draw on it. And I must say I am very fond of this text. So this text is by Atisha, who was an Indian master who was invited to go to Tibet to teach, and he is primarily responsible for a very large part of the Tibetan Buddhist tradition. So, look, I will read it. Homage to great compassion, homage to all spiritual masters, homage to the deities of devotion. Abandon all doubts and cherish exertion for accomplishing the practice. Abandon sleepiness, dullness and laziness, and always exert enthusiastic effort. With recollection, alertness and watchfulness, always guard every door of the senses. 3 times during the day and night, again and again, investigate the continuum of your mind. Proclaim the faults of yourself and seek not mistakes in others. Hide the good qualities of yourself, but proclaim the good qualities of others. Reject acquisitions and honours, and always reject desire for fame. Desire little, be content, and repay acts of kindness. Meditate on love and compassion, and stabilise the awakening mind. Avoid the 10 unwholesome actions, and always stabilise your faith. Conquer anger and arrogance, and possess a humble mind. Avoid wrong livelihoods, and live a life of truth. Abandon all worldly possessions, and be adorned by the gems of superiors. Abandon all frivolities, and abide in solitude. Abandon all senseless talk, and always control your speech. When seeing your master or teacher, perform services with respect. Towards a person having the eye of the doctrine, and towards sentient beings who are beginners, develop the recognition of them as teachers. When seeing any sentient being, develop the recognition of them as parents and children. Abandon misleading friends and rely on virtuous spiritual companions. Abandon minds of anger and unhappiness, and wherever you go, be happy. Abandon attachment to everything and abide free from attachment. Attachment will never procure you a happy rebirth. It kills the life of liberation. Wherever you see practices leading to happiness, always exert an effort towards them. Whatever you have started to do, accomplish that very thing first. Do everything well in this way, otherwise nothing will be achieved. Always be apart from liking evil. Whenever a pompous mind arises, flatten such arrogance. Recall the teachings of your master. When a cowardly mind arises, praise the sublimity of the mind. Whenever objects of attraction or aversion arise, meditate on the emptiness of both. View them as illusions and emanations. When hearing any offensive words, view them as an echo. When your body is afflicted by harms, view this as your previous actions. Abide well in solitude beyond town limits, like the corpses of wild game. Be by yourself, conceal yourself, and dwell without attachment. Always stabilise awareness of your yidam, and whenever laziness or lassitude arise, enumerate these faults to yourself and feel remorse from your heart. If you see others, speak calmly and sincerely. Avoid a wrathful and frowning expression, and always remain cheerful. When seeing others continuously, be pleased to give without being miserly. Discard all jealousy. To protect the mind of another, avoid all conflict and always have patience. Do not be a flatterer or fickle, but always be capable of being steadfast. Avoid belittling others and remain respectful in your manners. When giving advice to others, have compassion and thoughts for their benefit. Do not disparage spiritual doctrines and be intent on whichever you admire. Through the door of the 10 Dharma practices, exert an effort throughout the day and the night. Whatever virtues are collected during the 3 times, dedicate them for the unsurpassable great awakening. Distribute your merit for all sentient beings and always offer the 7-limb prayer and great aspirations for the path. If you act in this way, the 2 accumulations of merit and wisdom will be accomplished. Also, with the eradication of the 2 obscuration, which fulfills the purpose of having gained human form, unsurpassable full awakening will be achieved. The gem of faith, the gem of ethics, the gem of generosity, the gem of hearing, the gem of consideration, the gem of shame, and the gem of intelligence. These are the 7 supreme gems. These 7 gems are never exhausted. Do not tell this to non-humans. Examine your speech when amidst many people. Examine your mind when living alone. So there's an awful lot in this, and there's a fair bit of it needs explanation. But as I was saying last week, probably 80 or 90% of it we can just read and take at that immediate value, face value. So there's some that always stick in my mind. And I try to practice them. So, I'll leave it at that. So if any of you have had some already that you've been reading and sort of want to ask about, we can go through them. And one thing that Geshe Doga actually said last week, maybe in relation to this text, he did mention this. So one of the elements is that, I want happiness and I want to be free from suffering. And so in the same way, every living being similarly wants happiness and wants to be free from suffering. And that recognition that other living beings want happiness and want to be free from suffering pervades this text. So most, if not all, of these little verses encapsulate the fact that others want happiness and want to be free from suffering. And so one that often comes to my mind is whenever a pompous mind arises, flatten such arrogance. And so the underlying reason for that, that instruction is that others want happiness and they want to be free from suffering. And so for that reason, I need to control my mind. And so a pompous mind, I need to flatten that pompous mind for the benefit of others, because it affects the happiness of others. And then some of them, things like, towards sentient beings who are beginners, develop the recognition of them as teachers. And so similarly, that instruction is to overcome any sense of superiority and also some sort of hierarchy, the idea of a hierarchy of they're beginners, what would they know? No need to listen to what they say. So again, so much of this is about crushing arrogance, crushing the sense of superiority, crushing the dismissal of the needs or the wants of others. And so we can read all these verses in that context of everybody wants happiness and wants to be free from suffering. And so we can see in most, if not all, of these, there's sort of the basic instruction. So some of them at the beginning here, like with recollection, alertness and watchfulness, always guard every door of the senses. So that has primarily a benefit for me. So the doors of the senses are hearing, seeing, talk, mouth, nose. The senses are called doors because they allow our experience of the external world into our mind. So the hearing, sight, taste, touch, smell, they are the doors to our experiencing of the world. And through those doors we experience the world and we generate conceptions and we generate attitudes and biases and likes and dislikes. So here is to guard the doors of the senses so that we do not have the perception of, let's say in particular, the perception of others as unworthy or, somebody to be banished, somebody to be disliked, that judgment. The judgment from our appearance of others to overcome that judgmental aspect when we see something, when we hear something, when we smell something, when we touch, when we taste, to eliminate that severe judgmental interpretation of the world. And some of it is very practical, like 3 times during the day and night, again and again, investigate the continuum of your mind. So this is turning the attention internal and examining the way your mind is working. And to do that regularly and consistently. So I really would like you to read it, over this month, if you've read it 10 times, that'd be fantastic, because there'll be some meaning. You'll start to get meaning from this. So if there's not enough copies this week, I'll get some more copies for next week. So as per this text, we'll do some meditation. So, and it says here, maybe not specifically, quite a bit of it is to do with meditational practices, but particularly more focused meditation, I'd say. Meditate on love and compassion and stabilizing the awakening mind. So the awakening mind here is referring to that completely altruistic intention of benefiting others. All right. So we'll do just some breathing meditation. So adopt a good posture. And can I ask if anybody's here for the very first time tonight? No. Thanks. So adopt a good posture. Become aware of where your mind is. And bring your mind within your body, within yourself. Don't let it stray out. In this very moment, into this very moment, this very place, and let all of the thoughts just drop away. And our point of focus for this meditation is going to be the breath. So the breath coming in and going out. And our real point of focus is the awareness. We're focusing on the awareness of the breath coming in and going out. So bring your mind into a state of no thought, and then turn your attention to this mental experience of the breath coming in and going out, and keep your focus just 100% on that. Just relax your concentration and examine what happened in your meditation. So with a very honest appraisal, have a look at what happened in your meditation. Did you lose the object? Or did you change the object? Did you become sleepy or distracted? So just have a very realistic appraisal of what happened in your meditation. And then with a strong determination to not become distracted or to not become sleepy, thinking that being able to meditate and to use my mind skillfully, powerfully, is really important to realize this aspiration to benefit others. So even a few minutes breathing meditation is a step on the way to fully developing our capability. And so with that motivation, let's just repeat that same meditation for another few minutes. So relax your concentration. Now, one of the lines in here is to examine the continuum of your mind. So we'll have an attempt at meditating on this. So if we think, if we suddenly try to freeze a moment, we freeze a moment and look at that moment. We can see that there's my body, my mind, and and this I. So I have my mind, I have my body. And so in this very moment, this body, mind and I are present. And we can say they're always present while we're alive, together. But the mind, so try to watch the mind and see the continuum of mind from moment to moment. So not so much the thought that's in the mind, but the mind itself, maybe the substance in which the thoughts arise. So one of the analogies is that the mind is like a clear sky, and the thoughts are like clouds that arise in the sky and abide for a period of time and then dissipate. So the thoughts, the feelings, the conceptions, the experiences, they arise due to some causes and conditions, and they abide, and then they dissipate. But this all happens within the mind. So we'll just meditate to look at the continuum of that mind. So we're looking at moment to moment. We're trying to see that moment to moment continuum of the mind. So now just think, before entering this room, there was the mind, the body and I, that collection. And then just examine the continuum of the mind from that moment before entering the room to this moment now. Look at the continuum of the mind. How does it appear? What is it? Examine or feel that continuity. And similarly from yesterday to today, from a year ago to today, from the moments as a child to today. Recognise that continuum of the mind, and if possible, get some feeling for what that is. And similarly, going forward, have some sense of that continuum of the mind projecting forward or flowing forward, or whatever language you want to use, but some idea of the continuity of that. So you can just relax the mind from that meditation, and we'll just very briefly look at one of the other points here. Is this idea of guarding the doors of the senses. So our sight, hearing, smell, taste and touch, in particular those five, what are called the five doors. So if you, maybe as a meditation, you think, how is it that I have become disturbed? How do I become disturbed? What is it that disturbs me, that aggravates me, annoys me? Where does that come from? And so here is to examine this assertion that the only way that we become disturbed from the external world is through those five doors. Our sight, our hearing, smell, taste, touch. And then you think those senses are quite, they're sort of very naive and just, they're simple. Like the eyes just see colour and shape. No more, no less than colour and shape. The nose only has like sweet, pungent, fruity, whatever, there's a, the Buddhist system has got these sort of basic sort of classification of what the nose things. The ears only hear vibration of the sound, of the air. That's all the ears do, is just that mere vibration. And similarly, taste and touch. Touch is smooth, rough, sharp, cold, or maybe cold, hot. I think they come into that classification. That's it. Not annoying, not delightful, not delicious, not, they're all projections of our mind. But to see just that the basic simple nature of our perception is really like it's naive, it's just colour and shape. And everything else is a fabrication or a creation of our mind based on that thing. So when it says, guard the doors of your senses, what it's saying is trying not to overlay this judgmental experience onto what is in reality a very naive, interaction with the world. Anyway, that's something to think about. And so there are meditations that we can do individually. But let's just spend a minute. So you can treat what I've said as an assertion, I'm not asking you to agree with it or to believe it, but just treat it as an assertion. And so then meditate yourself on, looking at these doors, the doorways of our perception, and examine it for yourself, what they are, how they work. So let's just spend a minute doing that. Okay, so Thank you for that, taking that. So we've got time now for some discussion or questions, or anybody like to share their opinion of some of those meditations.
Damien, when reflecting on the breath, I guess, if I notice that there's very subtle variations if I'm doing well of where exactly I'm concentrating. I guess my question is, should we be striving for perfect concentration, or is it good enough?
Yeah, so the question is about the breathing meditation and an interpretation of the perfection of the of the breathing perception, I think, is what you're talking about. Okay. So the breathing meditation, particularly the way, I've encouraged here is to look at the mental awareness, the object. So this is for your long-term meditational practice, is that ultimately our object of focus should be a mental object. Right. Now, so the breath, breathing in, breathing out. I think as much as possible, there is no granularity in that experience. So sometimes people get caught up with, it's fast, it's slow, there's a pause, and that pause is long, then I'm breathing it out, that's so gentle and soft, and then that is a verbalization, which is a discursive distraction to the object. So you're overlaying a verbalization of granularity, of discussion. You've introduced a whole discussion about the breath. So as much as possible to eliminate that verbalizing of the experience, the mental verbalizing, just the object. Breathing in, breathing out. And, we are totally subject to this ongoing verbalization about everything. And so it's a hard habit to break. When I first started doing meditation, I was doing that endlessly, thinking, what triggers the out-breath starting, and then what is it that triggers the in? Oh, here it is. It's kind of like this endless verbalization. It's the enemy of concentration, that verbalization. So the judgmental view of the breath coming in and coming out as perfect or near perfect or not perfect is part of that verbalizing. And really, as much as possible, try to drop that verbalizing, really. So, yeah. This is what I want. People reading it and saying, what about this line? Yeah. The obscurations, so the obscurations to knowledge and what are they called? The obscurations to afflictions and the obscurations to knowledge. So, yeah, but along that line. So the obstacles to liberation and the obstacles to liberation, to enlightenment, yeah. I think that's what it means, yeah. What do you think about this? Do not tell this to non-humans. I think it's a great line. I always like that line.
I actually didn't understand it.
Sorry?
I didn't understand that.
Well, it's saying, I think part of what it's saying is, the human life that we have has some very unique aspects in terms of being able to practice, like the precious human rebirth. And I think it's a way of sort of reinforcing that this is for you as a human. And it's not valid for a dog or a cat,
I had some trouble with this last week, I think.
Yeah. And, it's not, like, it's unfair. This is the reality of our circumstance, is that we have somehow created a circumstance which is a very unique opportunity, and it has to be respected, that how unique and how opportune it is. And maybe that's just a way of reinforcing that, yeah. So yidam, it's a Sanskrit word, and it means, so it's a reference to the meditational practices that use, figures like Chenrezig or Tara, or, so it's, where a person has devoted themselves to a particular practice of, Chenrezig or Tara, and so, keeping that meditation. So what does it say? Yeah, always stabilise awareness of your practice. So that's really what it's saying. And the laziness and lassitude in this context here are particularly in relation to meditational practice as well. So, these simple things like, if you see others, speak calmly and sincerely, and avoid a wrathful and frowning expression. For some reason, a lot of people think I'm frowning all the time. So I sort of get a fair bit of coaching about stop frowning. So, I think it is beneficial to always have a smiling countenance, So, and maybe we have to work at that if that's not our natural. If we walk around and people say, "Oh, why are you always scowling and frowning?" and is there something I did? And always remain cheerful. So, discard all jealousy. Yeah, good advice. All these things. Okay, any other questions? So let's just do a dedication meditation. Think about the benefit of us all coming together and meditating together, listening. Thinking this takes the form of a ball of white light. Everybody's effort together. And bring it above the crown of your own head. And let it dissolve completely down into you, completely filling your body with light. Right down to the tips of your toes, your body completely composed of light. And your mind completely clear and open. And then imagine to all other sentient beings, all other living beings, just radiating out rays of light, that bring them happiness and bring them freedom from suffering. And then develop a sense of joy that you've brought some happiness, some absence of suffering. By your kind thought to others, you've actually removed a type of suffering from every living being. A non-harmfulness. You've brought a non-harmfulness to every living being. And then bring that light back and let it dissolve back into yourself. And just feel a sense of delight and sense of joy at having been able to visualize this. So thank you very much. So I'll be back next week. Sorry about this whole sort of different setup today, but if you're coming tomorrow, or hopefully we'll see you here tomorrow. So it's all been set up for His Eminence Ling Rinpoche, who is a very prominent teacher, and he's acknowledged as the reincarnation of the Dalai Lama's senior tutor, who was also called Ling Rinpoche. So he's recognised as the reincarnation of that great teacher, and he is also a great teacher in his own right as well. So I'm very much looking forward to it tomorrow. So hopefully, if you're coming, that'll be great. So there should be a cup of tea and some cake or biscuits up there in the dining room. So thank you very much.